Hello and welcome to The Good, the Bad and the Worst, a podcast where we watch movie trilogies and series and decide which movie's only notable combat skill is throwing a 100-pound sack of flour over its shoulder. I'm your host, Griner, and joining me today...
I'm Luke Heavensby, and I volunteer as tribute.
I'm Conan Pye Bamblesnatch, and I too have nightmares.
I'm glad you guys picked up on the weird names. I want to get into that in a second. But of course, we're doing the Hunger Games, 4 movies that possibly should have only been 3, but we'll get into it. These movies were the biggest thing at the time. Like, the number of clones these things generated is amazing. And like big budget clones, Maze Runner, Divergent comes to mind. Yep. I saw a list the other day and there was easily half a dozen big budget movies that were greenlit off the back of this. Yep. I remember being really excited about these at the start, like watching the first one and enjoying it. What was your experience with these movies, guys? Conan?
Yeah, I remember I remember being a bit skeptical and contrarian as I always am. Because, you're right. I remember just the wave this was, like the phenomenon. This was kind of the Marvel before Marvel. These are the kind of things that everybody was seeing. They were like a big issue in my mind is they're PG-13, so kids could see them. Parents, like, they're intentionally marketed sort of to teens, but I was like, okay, everyone can get something out of this. Yeah. And yeah, they were a phenomenon. Like, kind of off the back of Twilight, riding that way, but pushing that in a better direction, like a more accessible direction. And like I was there. I saw the first 2 in the cinemas. So, I was like, hey, cool. It's a big franchise. Franchise entertainment meant something back then still. But I don't think I was ever like super excited. I was just interested in blood sports.
See, it's funny that you say that, because I was going to say, like, instead of the Marvel comparison, it's like I remember looking at it at the time as like, this is Twilight, but people die. Like, this is cool. This is for cool teens, not just the ones that are interested in a love story. This is going to be the version of Stone Cold's The Condemned, but with the hunger for teenagers.
Comparison.
It's Battle Royale. It's Battle Royale. Everybody said no.
And anyway. I never went to the cinema or anything like that. I'd waited for the DVD release and watched the first one. Really, enjoyed it, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool." And then for some reason, just never watched another one and never went back to it. And I had this whole idea that, after the first one, it really went downhill, and I thought just critical reception, everything, it bombed, and just so I never had any interest in going back to that. Well, until one day.
Till you forced the dump on us.
Until you decided to do the podcast.
Well, let's see if you're right, Luke. Let's look at the stats.
Yes. Stats.
The original Hunger Games, $78 million budget, made $694 million. Catching Fire, $130 million budget, made $865 million. Mockingjay Part 1, $125 million budget, made $755 million. And Mockingjay Part 2, $160 million budget, made $653 million. No doubt these are big films. And prior to MCU being MCU, these all came out kind of before Phase 3 when MCU really, I feel like that's when MCU really took off and became the juggernaut it is. I mean, I don't know. It's interesting to see how much the budget grew over that time, but they still made good money overall.
They're all still big returns, yeah, especially considering they're back to back, a year after year, 12, 13, 14, 15.
Yeah.
People are still turning out each year for them. And especially after the first one, I can imagine there being a big drop off, but there's only a small decline. Most people, I guess, still went and saw it.
The second movie is actually the biggest. Yeah, it's the finale that dropped off a bit.
Yeah. But
I get the feeling, and I've looked it up since watching the last 2, but I just couldn't shake the feeling that I was like, this was meant to be a trilogy. I didn't realize that there was only 3 books, that it was planned to be a trilogy, but it was at that time in movies where everything was a part 1 and part 2, and split up the movie, and because I really feel. And obviously we'll get into it, but I really feel like this could be a strong trilogy instead of a average quadrilogy because of the last 2 films. But
make the third film a 3-hour epic maybe, but not
Yeah.
2.5-hour movies. Yeah, we'll get into it, I guess. But
Yeah. I wonder if that's because I was a similar thing. I remember after the first two, I remember seeing Catching Fire. I think that's actually really good, and being like, oh, maybe this young adult thing is for not so young adult Conan. But I didn't, for some reason, I didn't watch the last two, and I wonder if that's part of it. I wonder if it's a big thing of I saw part one, and I'm just like, no, okay, I know what this is happening, because Twilight did a similar thing, and even though I'd never seen that.
yeah,
That was a very, that's a fairly well-known example of like just bleeding a stone
Harry Potter?
Harry Potter kind of kicked it off, right? And I think we'll get to it one day maybe, but it kind of did it well, right? Like kind of justified its runtime.
I think so, but there are a lot of fans I know who don't like it because it's doesn't take place at Hogwarts. There's a lot of time just in the anyway. Different
Part one always feels like setting up part two. That's in these films always, and it's just. Yeah. Yeah,
you already have that problem with the middle film in a trilogy, and then add on a part one of the final film, and it's just it exacerbates the issue. The critical reception: 68 for Hunger Games, 76 for Catching Fire, 64 for Mockingjay 1, 65 for Mockingjay 2.
Ooh.
I mean, they're pretty
a lot closer than I thought.
Yeah, they're pretty close. Kind of solid scores across the board. Not blowing anyone away, but.
Oh, the Catching Fire one's like super high.
Yeah, 76 is pretty high.
That's creeping up to 80. Like 80 is genuinely, at least for me, I'm like, if you see a film at 80, it's like that's a great film. So people turned out for this. Like people responded to Jennifer Lawrence, I guess.
Catching Fire.
The thing that surprised me watching these again was the cast in these movies. Like there's a cast in these movies, and they can act, most of them, right? I'm not saying they have great things to do all the time, but
it's crazy.
Yeah, Liam.
before
himself.
They got before he became Geralt.
Oh dear, I forgot about that.
Yeah, the last two films especially, like they just keep adding names into it. It's like, holy crap, you guys just sit down.
I forgot about Philip Seymour Hoffman.
These were his last movies as well, which is kind of sad in a way.
I feel like you can even tell in part two, like towards the end of the film, where it's like, okay, this guy's going to read his words that have been left by Philip Seymour Hoffman, and it's just like,
that was the example I came up with. I saw it as like that was the plan. He was going to do it, and they're like, well, we can't get him to do it anymore.
Yeah,
so that's sad.
Yeah.
All right. Quick side note. Something that's always fascinated me with this series is the names. I don't know, something about them. There's not a single person named Andrew in these movies or Luke. Like they're all bizarre, weird names. And I want you guys to tell me if you think what's her name? Suzette Collins?
Susan Collins.
Susan Collins. Whether she's done a good job or not. I've got a few examples of the names from these movies. So District 1 creates luxury items, and there's a character named Cashmere. There's a character named Gloss. Let's go to some other ones. The Electronics District 3 has Tesley and Wires and Cirque.
Yeah.
The Power District 5 has Sol.
Okay.
The Textiles District 8 has Bobbin, Twill, Wovey.
Do these names come from the movies?
No, they don't. I think they're mostly from the books, but I just thought, these are a lot more on the nose than the ones they give you in the movies. The agriculture sector, Chaff, Thresh.
Thresh is the one that stood out to me. It's like, Thresh is not subtle.
Yeah, look, they're not so subtle when you read them out in a list, but I still appreciate going to the trouble of making up a bunch of names.
It's the same. It takes a lot. It's the same effect as like, I don't know if there's a name for it, but it's kind of like the Star Wars effect, where every name in that it's like takes something. It takes a sound or a part of a word that exists and kind of adapts it. Like Poe Dameron. That's it's like Joe Cameron. That's a name, right? Like it's not a very exciting one, but you tweak it ever so slightly. Yeah. It's like Poe sounds cool. Ray, but it's with an E and it becomes a girl's name.
Like Rey Mysterio.
That's exactly the reference point that I also
exactly.
Yeah. Even Luke Skywalker. Simple, but Skywalker's kind of okay. It sort of fancifies it a little bit. And it's a theme that like George Lucas does it pretty well. And it's a similar thing here. Like Katniss can obviously be Catherine or Katrina or something. But it's just a little bit different to make you go, oh, that's cool. And
how popular do you reckon the name Katniss got after the release of these films?
Curious about that. I've never met one, but
on Google it says Katniss was the 580th most popular girl name. In 2021, there were only 14 baby girls named Katniss.
That's still 14 more than I would think.
One out of every 127,000 baby girls are born named Katniss. But yes, I'm sure that went up dramatically.
Yeah,
I feel like the name Bella had a bigger increase. I know some Bellas.
Well, but that's still a name, right? Like Katniss isn't a name.
That's true. Katniss is not a name.
Like
Daenerys.
Yeah, so that's the other one that's like a different.
People who named her Khaleesi.
Game of Thrones is very different though.
And they're like, oh my god, she's Hitler. This is bad.
What have I done to my child?
It's very great. Have you guys read any of the books, or do you know any of the backstory really?
No, only some Googling, but
because something I saw in a brief description is like it's stated that this is set in the ruins of America. But that's never established in the law, or in the movies at least. It's never explained where they are. They're just there. It is. Yeah. So with that in mind, so I'm speaking out my ass because I don't know if it's true. But if that's the case, the name thing kind of works a little bit more, right? Where there's these concepts and there's these things in their districts, in their cities, and they take names from that. Like it sort of makes that sense that they discontinue names or they adapt names. Like Caesar Flickerman. Caesar is a name, but common Seneca is a name. There are some names that exist that are real, but they're still a little bit different. So you can sort of feel this whole kind of like Fallout, where people sort of take names and they adapt them. It's like, oh, this is an old world item, and so I tweak it, and that becomes my title now. And in the same way that names originated here, like a blacksmith took the name Smith.
Yep.
A thresher takes the name Thresh. I'm like, there's an internal logic to it, but actually I quite admire.
Yeah, I've always enjoyed it. Like the capital's all kind of Greek god names and stuff like that. Yes. Like that's where they take all their inspiration from, which is fitting, I suppose.
Yeah, you're right. It's not subtle, but it's like, again, this is young adult fiction. This isn't trying to be highbrow. This isn't trying to be like. I mean, there's a lot of inherent problems with the very concept, with the very foundation of the whole idea of Hunger Games. So if you're gonna pick at inconsistencies, you'll be here all day.
Yeah.
But if you suspend your disbelief, I think it works.
What's the symbolism behind Snow? President Snow.
Jon Snow was the king in the north, and President Snow is the king of Panem. It's right there.
He's pure. No, he's getting his own series soon. So
wild,
this year.
Right?
Is he? We'll get into it, but he's just like a comically bad guy. He doesn't have any redeeming qualities.
Donald Sutherland is the redeeming quality.
Sure. All right, let's kick it off with the Hunger Games. Katniss Everdeen voluntarily takes her sister's place in the Hunger Games, a televised competition in which two teenagers from each of the 12 districts of Panem are chosen at random to fight to the death. I love the concept of this movie.
This is a cool idea.
Yeah, I think it's fun. It is very battle royale.
It's 100% just battle royale.
Yeah, but battle royale is better.
Yes.
I think the PG-13 rating really hurts it in some ways.
Look, that's my biggest point. That's exactly my point from the beginning when I first saw this. I thought that, and rewatching this the whole time, I'm like, I know it's my one trick pony. Is like everything needs to be more violent. We need more gore in our lives, but especially in a concept like this that is literally trying to sell you the premise of blood sports are bad. You need to show blood. You need to show why they're bad, right? And having just like off-screen deaths or brief flashes of someone and like showing them, telling us they died is not enough. Like that really holds it back from being what it needs to be.
Imagine if this film was what it was, and then as soon as the Hunger Games start, it's just like rated R, like gore, blood, like dismemberment, and it's like it'd be horrific. Like so many people are just watching it, like da da da, and then just go straight into it. Like
someone takes their 13-year-old.
Yeah,
like you don't have to even do like, oh, here's someone cutting someone in half.
Hmm.
But like, there are scenes where there's guys training with knives and axes, and you see like glimpses of somebody run and swing a sword. It's like like when you don't see any of it, the implication is still powerful. Like these movies don't lose their power entirely, but I really felt like something just gets lost when there's a bit of like shaky cam, and then it's like, oh, we see some people staring off into the distance because they're dead. It's like, yeah. I don't feel like you don't feel the horror. You don't feel like this is really awful. You feel like, oh, it's kind of fun.
Yeah, there's none of that shock factor. This is just kind of this is a game show. It's okay.
Yeah.
Everyone's all right.
So they're all just pretending.
I feel like there's a moment when the games first start and like they're just people are bludgeoning each other, and there's the kid that gets stabbed by the older guy in the first movie. I was a bit like, oh, okay, didn't realize they got like to this level of violence sort of thing in this. It surprised me a bit, but yeah,
they push it.
As far as it goes.
They do push it of like, what can you show with PG-13? They're like, okay, this is probably the limit, which I admire, but it's just, that limit really holds it back.
Yeah.
But then I can see why this did so well. Blood sports, there's something inherently interesting about it, right? There's something that we're constantly, since the gladiators of Rome, we as a people have loved watching other people kill each other for our entertainment.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that says about us, but I think it's cool. It's neat that they tried to do that for a young adult fictional series, right?
Yeah.
Like I say, they didn't do vampire romance anymore. They went, no, what if kids murdered each other? Like, that's the kudos. Kudos for taking that swing.
Yeah. What if we had a really complex, structure of districts and politics and stuff like that? Like, I like that they go into it a bit. It's a little bit oversimplified, and it doesn't really make sense if you hold a magnifying glass up to it. But as a general concept, and as a way to introduce, class warfare to people, I think it's interesting. Like, I really like the concept of this movie in particular.
This could be a really cool video game. Like, I don't know, like surviving in one of the districts and then going into the Hunger Games for the finale of the game and then just surviving there. I don't know. That's cool. Like, people should make a battle royale type.
And depending on which district you start off in is the difficulty level, right? There's 12 difficulty levels.
Exactly. Exactly.
A colleague of mine made a good point. Like, having it as that sort of simplified division really works for young adults as well, because it's like, it kind of draws on like the school dynamic, right? It's like you've got classes, you've got this like strict hierarchy. So you're in a class or a district. You might be better at these classes teach certain things. There's a clear like sense of these people are above us, these are below us. Where do you fit in? And it really kind of appeals to that. And it appeals to everybody. Life doesn't. That hierarchy doesn't really change once you get out, but it's a lot more clear in school. And so there's something to that that's really interesting. Like, it's like I say, it is simplified, and a lot of the stuff is like the nuances are sort of washed over because that would unsettle it a bit. But by just having it as like, it's a bit clear of like who's good and evil, but it's a nice way to just like, that's why you do this, that's why they're there, that's why we're sort of angry at them. Like, it's cool to introduce those concepts to kids, or at least to younger people as well, rather than trying to be too complex for adults already, or trying to simplify it way too much. It's nice as kind of like a taster, right? Like, here is some of the
young,
like, expose them to the real world.
Yeah. Don't give too much power to politicians.
I mean, look, the class warfare message is only more poignant today, I think.
Yes.
I always enjoyed the Capital's flamboyance, I guess, like the wild ass fashion, and how much, particularly what's her name?
Effie Trinket.
Effie, yeah, particularly how much she stands out, like coming into District 12 to do the announcement, and she's great. I really enjoy her.
Yeah.
What's the actress's name? Elizabeth Banks.
Yeah.
Been good since Scrubs. She's good.
I agree. Like, again, it's very obvious the grey drab districts versus these. But it also makes sense. Yeah, it's like it's a society of have versus societies of have and nots, and like how else do you show that? Like, and that's how it would manifest, right? It would be kind of like that. They'd have nice fashions, they'd have things. My biggest problem is does the premise of this movie make sense? Would stability really be kept by forcing children to be sacrificed and kill each other. Like,
yeah, I mean, look, it's a bit of a flawed concept. The idea that a little bit of hope is just the right thing you need to keep the districts in line doesn't hold water, I suppose.
or if it did, it would be like if everyone, if two people could volunteer, or like, just have like an actual game show, people could compete. It's like that's the glimmer of hope. I just feel like the whole
volunteer to get out of that slum.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And it's like if you win, you do it. And I guess that's probably been done a lot, but it's just the idea of like we're going to kidnap your kids and make them kill each other. Everyone's like, all right, we won't rebel against this system. Then you've shown us that it's okay.
If that's what you have to keep us in line. I guess we'll go along with it.
There's some.
Just be like every year, if someone volunteers from your district and they win, then your district gets good food for a year.
Yeah, like
keep it up. Like there you go. You have to earn that to.
Yeah, wouldn't there be more value in having the districts like keeping the districts against each other rather than kind of this game show?
Yes, Katniss lives in a mansion now. Let's go back to work.
Yeah,
I don't know.
They hinted that, right, with the whole District 1 and 2 are like Haymitch gives them a name. They're lifers. They train from birth for this.
Yeah.
And so there's that whole idea of some of them are better and they seem to have a better resources for this. And no one from District 12 has ever won because they're all poor. But you're right, it never really goes further than just that. Because then Finnick comes into it and they're like, Finnick, you're my best friend and I trust you so damn much. And I'm like, I don't really understand why that is.
and Joanne, like there's a few characters they introduced.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess there should be rebels in every district, but
yeah.
I don't know. The concept of having the districts fight against each other seems like a much more sound way to keep them in line than having the capital put on this game show, where it's quite clear the capital is forcing them into it, and they're sacrificing their kids to the capital essentially. Like,
yeah, it's a bit wacky.
Yeah.
Speaking of the cast and past winners from District 12, should Woody Harrelson have long hair in every movie, or is it too weird?
I'm okay with it.
I just think Woody Harrelson is he's like the best looking kind of ugly guy. And I mean that in old phrase because like he's got that hillbilly look, but he can just rock things. Just whatever he does, he works it.
Yeah.
He just plays a great job.
Yeah, he probably was just showing up drunk. So whatever, I'll do this post-apocalyptic film.
They originally had him bald, and he's like, I grew my hair out. I went on a 6-month bender.
Sorry.
It's all right. I mean, what do you guys think of Jennifer Lawrence? Because this was one of her earliest roles. She'd already done some pretty good stuff, but I feel like this really made her big, right? This was
blew up. Like this.
Yeah. This is what made her sort of like A-lister that she is now. You guys fans? You like her performance in this?
I like her overall. In this in particular, I think she's good. I'm not going to say she's bad in this. I think she's good.
I think she's good. I like Jennifer Lawrence. I think she's good in this. I don't know if I like the character, as the character might be a bit drab, as in just like
she's so boring.
She wouldn't inspire me to run into war. Like honestly, I just be like, stop sucking. Like no way.
It gets really bad in part 1, Mockingjay Part 1 especially, when Philip Seymour Hoffman's like, she is like, this is who I was talking about. She is the best. And even, everyone's like, oh, I see it now. She is the only one who can do this. And I'm like, what do you see? Yeah. Please explain it to me. Because
she's got a fire in her soul. Yeah, I don't know. The character's not very interesting to me. I think she's a fine actress. I think she's pretty good in this.
Like the Cameron chick with the shaved head, I'd follow her in a battle. Like she seems more cooler and more
Natalie
personality.
Dormer, yeah.
And Finnick, I would follow Finnick.
Finnick, hell yeah, man! Yeah. I'd follow him anywhere. Finnick's awesome.
Yeah.
But I don't know. She's just worried about Peter.
Oh, the love triangle. Oh,
like yes, this is where the trappings of the young adult really betray it, right?
Yes.
Because the love triangle that they insist on having.
Yes, it's exhausting.
Team Peter or Team Hemsworth?
I mean, Gale's not even a
Gale.
Actually, are you Team Gale?
Me? Yeah.
Really?
I dislike Peter. I think Gale's hard done
Gale's
by.
a friend. Gale's a friend.
Gale gets
Gale's a
friend zoned. That doesn't mean he's not the right man.
But he was always friend zone.
No,
I'm
I
like,
don't know.
Peter really comes around.
He sneaks up around at the start and calls her Cat Piss Everdeen. It's pretty good.
It's love.
He's so
love.
witty. Good old Hemsworth.
Yeah. No, because the love triangle really, really does it in. And the other thing is having Katniss, like Katniss as a character, because she's super bland because you need to have readers be that, right? Like young adult readers need to be able to see her and go, this is
And
me.
angsty teens.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's exactly right. Like young adult fiction does this. It has a really sort of blank slate protagonist so the readers can go, I am this person. It's the exact same thing with Twilight,
Bella.
where
With Bella,
Bella is
Bella's
no
the same
personality.
character. Yeah.
Blank
Like-
slate.
There's a total, which is funny as well because I'm blanking on it, but the actress who plays Kristen Stewart,
Kristen Stewart. Yeah.
Kristen Stewart. Sorry, yeah, she's a phenomenal actress, like one of the
Yeah.
best working. And Jennifer
Yeah.
Lawrence is really good, and they both kind of start with this material that is really
Yeah.
lacking,
Yeah.
and that sucks because as a movie, following her the whole time, it's like her entire personality it's supposed to be defined by the reader, and so having that in a movie becomes really tricky where they've got to define her, and it's like her whole personality is just kind of, I don't know, like rebellion, like contrariness, just everything anyone says or wants, she's like, no.
Yeah.
And it's
She's the only
just
one
like,
that'll stand up for
Even to the
every-
rebels, it's just like,
Yeah.
okay.
yeah, she'll stand up to
You're just a
everything
brat.
about, basically.
But a bit like Bella, she also kind of becomes defined by the men in her life as well, which is
Yes.
kind of
A love triangle.
counter
as
to
well.
the strong female presence we should have.
Like in the first one, it's not too bad, right?
No.
Yeah, it's
No.
still fairly, like there's clearly a bit of something between her and Gale. And then her and Peter is like, could be a friendship, but it grows. And it does a good job at least of like playing at the whole, is it real? Is it part of an act?
Yep.
And, they really talk about the whole, you've got to sell this love story. Like that really worked for me on this like rewatch of like, oh yeah, they play on that a lot. They talk about how you're selling a show to these people.
Yeah. Because even 2 starts and she's back with Gale and she's like, no, that was fake. Like no question
Yeah.
about it. She's just like, oh no, that was a show. I had to do that. And yeah,
was it?
I don't know. Just speaking of Gale, it's kind of like he gets hard done by at the end. She's very much just like, oh, goodbye for life. Like he's just like now the guard in the Capitol, and she's just like, no, I'm done
Because
with
he's
you.
a fascist, Luke. Katniss has no
What did
time.
he do again? He had the idea of the double bombs or some shit. Anyway, I guess we'll get to it.
Yeah, we'll talk about
Controversy.
put a pin in that. I want to
Yeah.
talk about that.
Yeah.
The other thing that really bugged me about this movie is like we have the Hunger Games. I love the concept. I love like being stuck in this dome, but there's just so many really overly contrived scenarios that I don't think they need. Like her being stuck up the tree while the rest of them are camped out underneath. Like how can you not get her out of a tree? There's 6 of you there.
It's really high up.
It's like it's a tall tree.
So high up.
No,
And then-
especially
Sorry, go ahead.
no, especially it's shown they have arrows, and they tried twice. And they're like,
And she
"Well, no."
goes to sleep.
Yeah,
Walk 10
it's-
meters to the side and
Yes.
shoot her in the side of the head.
She's asleep up there. She's not even awake. They have
Yeah.
arrows. They have spears. They have fire. Like there's just so many options here.
They have axes. Like, yeah, you're right. It's a bit silly.
Are the CGI dogs weird in this? Like
That's
the
it,
weird
isn't
things
it?
they release at the end?
The mutts or whatever they are. Yeah, they
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah, at the very end when they're
They-
on the.
They don't show them enough to be a huge issue in my mind. Like, oh, there is actually,
Which is probably the right way to do it, right? Like,
yeah. I guess there is the one scene right at the end, but initially it's mostly in shadow. I thought, right? Like you see their
It's
eyes. you
nighttime.
sort of see-
Yeah.
yeah, you see like bits of them and stuff. But it's
I think
You
it's
could-
just. It was more like, okay, there's this weird fantasy element to it all of a sudden. Where I was like, what are these creatures? Like, it's not like they're dogs that have been trained to like hunt or anything like that. It's like, okay, there's these weird creatures that aren't from this world.
There's other creatures later on too, though. Like it's not.
Yeah, I know, but it caught me by surprise in the first one. When it came out, I was
Yeah.
like, okay.
yeah. And I had the same thought because it's all mostly grounded for the film. It's like this is
Yeah.
they're going to a battle royale, and then there's a lot of like let's close in the rooms, let's just set things on fire, let's create sort of magic beasts that can kill people, but they just come out of the ground. It is it's a choice that I wish they didn't do. Like I would have preferred it if it's just But I guess it kind of fits with the whole this is entertainment, the game master idea of. But even then, you could do better
Yeah.
things. Yeah, I think I think you're right. Like you said, Grana, though, it's like there's sort of a contrived nature there of because right at the end, there was like, oh, this is taking too long. We need to finish this movie, so let's create dogs to murder people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like that's like imagine how bummed out you'd feel. Like my kid just got killed by a random dog attack in there.
That's what I'm wondering. Where it's like they get to these districts and it's like meant to inspire a bit of hope, and then it's just like they just keep making the games bullshit. Where they're like, you know what, let's burn this side of the forest and kill.
It's
these
too far away
people.
from everyone. Let's burn it all down. Yeah.
When you hear Thresh get mauled, it's like we've just seen this guy like smash this girl against a door. He's clearly pretty strong, and he's probably going to win this. But it's like he got jumped by dogs. It's like it feels a bit cheap.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of Peter's disguises?
That's the best.
I just hated it. I thought it was so
He's
bad.
so good at it.
He's going to lie down in a riverbed still.
Dope. It's fun. All the top letterboxd reviews of this movie is just talking about that.
Really?
It's clearly made a difference in people's lives. It's really dumb. Really dumb.
It's the kind of thing I feel like kind of works in a book, right? Like it's in your imagination.
Yeah.
There's not like this clear picture of him looking like a
Literally
riverbed,
looking
but
like
then
a
when
rock.
they do it, it's just it's weird. There's like a cave 660 meters away that he could be hiding in instead, but he doesn't do that. Like it,
But he's just out in the sun under a rock, like
killing himself under a rock.
been
It
here
just
for like
makes no sense.
3 days. Nobody's walked past yet. This is a bit pointless.
Yeah. No, it's you're right. It's a great book idea. There are some choices that they're faithful to the book, and you're right. Like they are book ideas. They should probably stay that way. But I know Peter in general, he's a bit useless in the games, isn't he?
Bit useless.
Yeah, a bit useless.
You could just cut it there. You don't need to say in the games.
Man, you just
Yeah,
I like him. I
Gale
don't
lover
like him.
and a Peter
No, I just
hater.
don't like Peter. I just do not like Peter. He
Can you
throws the
explain
bread
why?
to the pigs. He's just a weenie little.
No, but we
whinger.
learned that he.
I know.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know what it is. I think his skills are stupid. Like the cake decorating turns into survival camo. Makes no sense. He's like two-faced. He's like teaming up with the lifers.
But he was not
Because
two-faced.
he had to.
Yes.
He had to.
Them.
He just bothers me so much.
I can see it now in blood sports. Griner, you would be like, you'd be betraying people left, right, and center. You would just be like doing what it takes to survive.
Maybe.
He'd just be seeing Peter on the ground with his cake decorations, just light him on fire. He's like, I can see you. I can help you.
And the way he publicly tells everyone that him and Katniss are in love without letting her know first is real. That's some real.
Yeah.
That's some real creepy shit.
Because he did love her. And he's like, he's gonna die in the games. Like, what else are you gonna do? What's he gonna do? Dump him?
He's a teenager, man. We've all been there.
Yeah. Best our love on stage.
Before we go to a game where we kill each other. All right. We're going to be here all night if we don't get through these movies. Catching Fire. Katniss Everdeen and Peter Malark become targets. He's even got a shit name. Become targets of the Capitol after their victory in the 74th Hunger Games sparks a rebellion in the districts of Panem.
This is just the hottest take. Your hatred for Peter. I can't
believe I'm the only one who hates Peter right here.
Liam Hemsworth has no personality.
I'm not saying
in
he's
this
better.
movie.
Just stop defining Katniss by her man.
I fully agree with that. All right, okay, we agree with that. What about Lenny Kravitz? He's a good way to define him.
We didn't talk about
let's
Lenny
get
Kravitz.
into Lenny
No.
Kravitz because that's a bit creepy for me. I don't know. His relationship with her it borders
Is it
on
'cause you hate his
creepy
music?
for me. No.
Team Lenny all the way.
Yes,
No, but
they should have
it's
been
just-
together from the first go.
There's just something because obviously there's a big age difference, and there's just something creepy there that I got that they're close out of nowhere. He's just the fashion designer that she's just met, and he's like touching her on the cheek, and
Their
it's just like, I don't
friendship is a
know.
little fast. I do agree.
It's
He's
that same-
enamored by her immediately.
it's that same problem as it, right? That he's just like, you are the girl on fire. It's like, but what do you see in her?
Like, has he
Like,
not
what-
created outfits for all the previous
Yeah.
volunteers? And now all of a sudden he's like, no, I'm going to basically get killed because I want to make a stand a message with this girl because she deserves it. But
none of them were ever so dour, and he responds to that.
yeah,
I just think
he
it's just
loves
a
the
wild it's just a wild choice that he's in this. Like, why is Lenny Kravitz in this movie?
It is
Yeah.
interesting.
and then he just never acts again.
Yeah, like
Has
looking
he done anything else?
I'm looking over his filmography. He's done like roles in one or two movie. Like,
IMDb needs to stop putting music videos in filmographies.
I couldn't agree more.
That's
It's
the real
really,
villain.
really
The
annoying.
real villain.
That's the real crime.
He's in Zoolander 2, but he's in Zoolander 2 as Lenny Kravitz.
That's the thing. They're all cameos. They're all like, oh look,
Yep.
it's Lenny Kravitz. But in this, he's just a character.
He should have been Lenny Kravitz in this. That would have been.
Maybe that
So
is
they-
the answer.
They froze him in the old world and
Yeah.
thawed him out, and he's just like, I decorate him.
I like him in these movies. I don't know. Maybe there is something wrong with me.
No, I
I like
think
him.
he's
There's just something about their relationship where I find it a little. It feels forced because it feels like out of nowhere they're
Yes, I will agree with that 100%.
like they have more sexual chemistry than her two boyfriends. Like it's just
That's the problem. He's just like a sex icon. You can't not project that onto him.
true. Yeah.
No, I'm not going to say that. All right. Catching Fire.
This movie's really good.
It's pretty good.
I was surprised the first time. I was surprised again. Like, it's actually a really great sequel in terms of it enhances on everything. It kind of elaborates on the games. It expands the mythology.
It
Kind of
feels,
like, yep.
it feels big when the
Yeah.
second game start up again and they come up out of the water and it's like, oh,
Mm.
I'm like, this is intense. All right, they're stepping it
Yeah.
up. Like
It all feels.
yeah.
It's like kind of feels like it's like mythologizes it. It feels like an epic, and it's like this is a. But because they changed director, the first one was directed by a person who I'm going to find out their name right
Martin
now,
Scorsese.
Gary
Oh.
Ross.
Gary Ross, and then Francis Lawrence takes over the other ones.
Mhm.
Now, I'm not going to speak about who's a better filmmaker, but I do think there is a noticeable change of, I don't know, just tone and focus. Really, the first one is fairly kind of all the action's really shaky and frantic. I don't know. This one just becomes a lot more of like a character study, and the color palette's different. It becomes a lot more, I guess, it's like contemplative, which I think really works. Especially, it's all about the fallout of the first games. Like, yeah, really, really good film.
Yeah. Yeah, like that
Going on a
scene at the
tour.
start where she's got PTSD while she's hunting. Like it's it's effective.
Because that's only done really briefly as well. You see that one scene where she kills Jack Quaid, and then it's like, oh yeah,
yeah.
she's got PTSD.
Yeah, Jack
Whereas-
Quaid.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's
Whereas
people
in
in
a-
these movies.
In a follow-up movie, there's a whole 2 hours devoted to her PTSD, which is a problem.
There's the other moment, like on the train, where she's having nightmares, and
Right, true.
for some reason wants Peter to comfort
Peter
her.
has nightmares too.
Go get Hamish. Like,
He's blackout drunk. He's cool.
That's true.
Would it be creepier if he was the one who had
That's
like
true.
a-
You're right. It would
He
be
just
weirder.
comes in. He's like, I got nightmares too. I just
I've had
Do
him
you
for
want
the
me to
last
lay
30
down?
years and no one else
then-
to talk to about him.
And then Lenny Kravitz just turns up too.
Turns
And
up
they all
as
come- they all kind of
he's
come.
already in the bed. He's just like, come on. Oh, man.
Oh.
I'd totally forgot Philip Seymour Hoffman was in these movies. And I
Yeah,
kind of I like him in this movie.
a
Like he's a
nice
he's a
surprise.
pretty understated character, but I think he does a really, really good job.
Especially when you compare to the rest, right? Like, because they've all got the fancy fashions, and he's
Yes.
just wearing black. He's got nothing fancy about him. He
He's
speaks
modern.
very.
He's just like our world.
Yeah.
Like it's just very much like the old world for them.
And I forgot there was the whole reveal of him being, for the resistance.
Yep.
But he's kind of scary in this because he's not pompous. He's just, you feel like he's actually a true game master because he's in control and he doesn't need to, sell an image. He's just like,
Yeah.
he's just got a presence. He's, yeah. R.I.P.
That's what.
Yep.
Absolutely. That's what because obviously I'd never seen past the first one when I watched this originally, and throughout the second one I was just like, man, I don't know if he's on Katniss's side or if he's against her. Like I was like, I can't get a read on him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was a cool surprise at the end when it turns out that he's for the resistance and everything like that. But
Yeah.
I like the whole idea of them going on tour and they're. like accidentally inspiring these people to like stand up, and then they're getting murdered, and they're like, oh god, okay, no, we got to try and kiss the ring and try and put the rest of our peasants down and not have an uprising going.
Did you hear about the controversy at the start of this film? They go to District 11, which is, I think it's an agricultural district. It's primarily black people in this district, and they're picking cotton. Like, that's what they show.
Oh, God.
You could make another choice, surely. Like,
yeah, I did notice that.
It's a bit on the nose.
Yeah, I don't know. I want to think it's from like I want to think that there's trying to be a commentary there, but it's...
No, I don't think so either. It's just a poor choice.
Yeah.
I found the love triangle so exhausting in this movie. Like, I feel like she's kind of made her choice in the next ones, and I'm okay with it, but this is the one where I just
your boy Gale is all like, that kiss was real.
Yeah.
Shut up, Gale.
No.
All right. She just had to kill some people. Just be okay.
They were clearly together before the Hunger Games. She's coming home and leading him on.
All right, so Katniss is the problem.
I don't get where Katniss comes at with Gale, because I honestly feel like anytime she kisses him, it's because he's sad, and she's just like, okay, here. Like, it honestly feels like I'm trying to make you feel better.
She's a fixer. She's a real fixer.
And she just keeps like, okay, well, a kiss will fix this. A kiss will fix this with Gale. I don't believe their relationship, and obviously,
no, this is exactly why you can't be hating on Peeta. There's actually a real relationship there of the whole. You're a needy little baker's boy. I'm a badass huntress, but you're super empathetic. I'm also empathetic. Gale is just like, life's hard, and we're young adults. So who else have we got to date? Like, there's nothing.
Would this have been very different if he had volunteered in the first games, though?
Yeah,
I mean, he got. Poor friend zone. He had to stay back. He got family zone. He had to look after a whole family.
Yeah,
he like supporting his.
And then he didn't even get the girl at the end. It's ridiculous. No. Justice for Gale.
He's like, don't worry, I'll be your brother.
He's supplying a family with food while he's watching them on TV make out, and he's just like, shit, this sucks, man.
Look,
yeah, I feel for Gale.
He got cuckolded badly, but again, he becomes a fascist. So I think we just need to keep the sympathy.
This is what happens if you friend zone people; they'll turn into fascists.
Predicted incels before.
Yeah.
No, you're right. The love triangle is really tiresome in this. It's kind of necessary though. In one hand, like the Peeta Katniss relationship is at the crux. And so I guess it's just like it adds it adds a drama rather than just, do I love you? It's like, well, do I become because it kind of parallels her whole struggle of, do I become this symbol of rebellion? Do I become like the Mockingjay, or do I go back to my old life and try to be a victor now? And like it doesn't explore it super well, but it's kind of got that same energy of like, there's an old or a new, pick one. It's good. I think it's almost necessary. I think the problem is with just Gale's character. I really don't think he gets enough.
Do you not feel like Peter's like dead weight in all the Hunger Games though, as well?
Yes. That's
the other thing that bothers me. Like, she's carrying him hard.
Do we not know that needed to hide? He would be there.
They should have, when she hit up the tree, he should have just been like, "Here, I'll paint you into a tree," and like,
let me paint you.
He climbed up there while she was asleep. She wakes up and she's like, "What? I'm part of the tree."
I mean, even when she's knocked out, it's Rue who goes and puts leaves all over her and keeps her alive. In the first one, like,
yeah, shout out to Rue.
But that's meant to be the whole idea, right? Like, he's the humanity, because he's struggling in this, where he's like, he's like, you lose everything when you go in the games. I think there's a quote like that. He sort of is really, he kind of represents that whole idea of, like, going in here and killing someone, you lose what you are. Because he's really worried about losing that person and like losing his innocence. And so that's kind of her innocence, right? He is her innocence, whereas Gale is her undying fascism that she has to kill and replace. Like, are we not sure that Gale in the Hunger Games would just kill her at the last minute? He'd be like, it's me or Katniss, and he just like choke her out and
pull that stuff. Yeah, Gale wouldn't be eating no poison berries with her.
No, I think he would. I think he would trust Katniss. Yeah, I disagree.
I think he'd just like, go to sleep, and he'd take he take the family as his trophies because he's just a monster.
He did the more noble thing. He knew if he had volunteered, neither of them might come home. So he stayed home, looked after the family, got cuckolded.
Yeah.
Justice for Gale.
All right.
Yeah.
How does faking a pregnancy not get you out of the Hunger Games? I mean, maybe they could have just done a pregnancy test, but surely that's enough
You'd
to
think they
make you
would
not
have
compete.
after that.
Yeah.
You'd think the backlash. Like, man, that would get cancelled so hard on Twitter. Like, you know, Hunger Games would be trending worldwide.
The hashtag not my Hunger Games. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, these people watch people murder each other. I don't think they're too.
Right. You're right.
I don't know if being pregnant's really going to be the thing that does that.
What are your thoughts on Peter doing that?
Again, he's manipulative. He's gaslighting. Get him out of here.
He's
not trying
protect
to
her.
convince. He's not like, "Hey, you are pregnant," and Katniss is like, "Really?"
No, and he's like, "You
Fascism.
will be."
He is you're justifying everything he does by, well, he's probably going to die.
I didn't say that about
Gale's
this.
just
trying to
following
get her out of
orders.
the game.
Gale's just following orders.
Yeah. That's what they all said.
True. Oh no, my own fascism card's been played against me. I think it's a baller move. It's literally like, we got to get out of this, and
He
Like,
makes them look really bad. He makes Snow look really evil.
exactly. Like, think about
It's
it. We've all been at parties and been like, "I have to go. My wife's pregnant." Like, we've all played that card to get out of social situations.
Yeah.
Like you can't hold that against him.
Yeah.
And again, it ups the stakes. It's like, okay, the capital is super evil, and I think it's a good, I think it's a good simple, like, oh yeah, that's, we'll deal with the consequences later, but like, it's a wild card. Let's see how this goes.
He maybe could have told her beforehand.
Yeah.
All right, look,
he
yeah,
could've.
you're right. I can't defend him.
There's a whole lot of keeping Katniss in the dark in this movie.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
So supposedly Philip Seymour Hoffman is on Katniss's side, but like, she nearly dies to that fog, right? So does Finnick and Peter. Like,
Yeah, he was being risky for that.
it's like there's a lot of risks. I just don't understand what their plan was to keep her alive, except for she has to survive to be the Mockingjay. Is that the plan? I'm not sure.
It's like a crucible. If she can't survive the
Yeah.
fog, she can't survive the war with Snow. So,
Maybe.
And
I
I
mean,
feel
no,
like
you gotta get
it's like the stuff when they're spinning the clock thing around and she falls off. He stops it. Then he's like, "All right, that's enough." He's like, "Because
yeah.
will drown." Just speaking of cast as well, Jeffrey Wright is in this.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
always like Jeffrey Wright. Oh boy,
He's
Doesn't do
really
much.
good.
but
No, I think you can tell he's coming off that Casino Royale fame, but they're
Yeah.
still just like,
but
let's have him
before
in.
Westworld fame.
Yeah, it was like, we don't fully know what to do with him, but let's have him here. He's good at being.
He's always a massive nerd, right? Is that all he plays? That's all I've seen him play. I mean, I guess not so much in the Batman, maybe, but
No, he plays. Yeah, he's kind of got two types. He's got nerd or everyman. But even like Stanley Tucci's like really good.
yeah, I like
Really
Stanley
good.
Tucci in these movies. He's good. He's a lot
Yeah,
of fun.
he's just having fun with it.
Yeah.
Donald Sutherland has more to work with in this, and he really brings, like, he's the best casting in this, and he's the best part about the last two films because he is just magnetic, and he is ominous. He's the perfect person for President Snow, like, kind of charismatic, but just really kind of serpentine. I think he's great.
I do like him in the role. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like in the first couple of movies, he's just too evil. Like, he's not. There's that charisma doesn't really get to shine through, but you definitely see it in those last two, like the Mockingjay movies.
Yeah, like, he's getting a little bit more in this. You're right. He's still just like, he's the big bad.
Yep.
But I guess that's what you need from this as well. It's not so much about that yet, but
The Finnick, like, teaming up with him and working for the Resistance surprised me because obviously I haven't seen these before. Like, it was building up towards the game starting. I was like, oh man, that's going to be like their main competitor, the hard one to kill and stuff like that. And then it just starts and he's like, no, I'm on your team. And I was like, oh,
yeah,
cool.
I feel like I missed something with this. Like, I feel like they don't trust him, right? And then he's like, yeah, I'm on your side.
Just
Or
so
they-
charismatic. They can't help but trust him.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I don't blame
don't know.
him.
You're right. A little bit like Sinner. They're like fast friends. Trust him maybe a little too much, a little too early. But Finnick is Cedric Diggory. They're basically the same character, I feel like, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, you're right.
In my opinion, anyway. Handsome, charismatic.
Yeah, so they got the perfect actors as well.
It's a
like,
messed up
downright
death.
gorgeous. Yeah.
Poor Finnick.
Shouldn't have died. Should have been the
No.
one that survived.
Yeah, really should have.
I feel like I was going to say something else, but let's keep
How do-
moving.
What do you think of the end with her shooting the arrow and the lightning bolt?
I like
It's
the
actually-
whole. This arena is a clock and it has weird things. I think that's a fun game. The games aren't as good. The Hunger Games
No.
aren't. They're not as like they're more interesting, but they're not as. I don't know. Like it's a higher concept, but it's just not as cool.
It's a smaller part of the movie, too.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of that reveal though. The whole shoot an arrow and perfectly time it with lightning to do it.
I don't know. It doesn't do much for me. Like, we all know it's a dome. There's no reveal there that it's a dome. We know. I don't know. Like, what does breaking a hole in the ceiling do for them?
It shuts down everything. Remember, like for some reason, it short circuits the city, and
The
nobody
whole
knows
city
what's going
dies
on.
because
remember all the districts. Like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, everyone gets
Oh,
blacked
my
out.
Lord.
What a crappy capital.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who wired that up?
That dome that control the Hunger Games was their main. electrical-
District 3
Yeah,
really
yeah.
failed with that one when they.
I heard
Wiped
someone
them
got
out.
purged. Yeah, good
Worst
burn.
idea ever.
Burn them to the ground. Kill all of them.
True.
Yeah, it's all the games generally end in a bit of a really neat way. They kind of they build up with like tension and then it's like, all right, we got to end this quick. And it's like, well, it's like, okay, let's send in poison mist to kill some people and then we'll just do this one quick thing. It doesn't feel earned, but
The wart mist, brutal.
it's pretty gory.
It is kind of gory, yeah.
Yeah, it's gross.
It's pretty effective. I think that's the most effective one. The Mockingjays imitating all the dead people is a bit. That's the other thing that plays on the PTSD a bit, I guess, but it doesn't really do a lot for me.
Mm.
Yeah, wait, they do. Oh yeah,
I suppose just like calling out in the not just dead person's name, but their family and friends.
Yeah.
like calling out them and stuff
is
like
that is that happening or is that their imagination?
I don't know
It's
what's
happening.
happening. Like, there's a force
Is it?
field there too, so they can't like interact with the rest of their team. They're stuck on the border.
They're
It's
locked
kind
Yeah,
of
there's
weird.
some-
on that. Yeah,
There are some illogical. There's some internal illogic. Is there a word for that? A noun for illogic?
the
I don't
Hunger
know. It
Games
doesn't
aren't
make sense.
logical. This
No, but there are a lot more rules in this one that just like that. Like the force field gets put up randomly. There's a lot more stuff that just happens like that just doesn't seem natural. It seems like it's controlled.
and again, is that Philip Seymour Hoffman testing her and being like, is she battle ready? She
Yeah,
has to
good
endure
question.
this for hours to see.
Damn
if she
good
can
question.
Inspire a nation.
But yeah, I guess the thing that struck me with these games is we were bothered by them setting fire to the first games to drive her out of her hidey hole. These games are basically that for the whole time,
Pretty much. Yeah.
and it frustrated me a little bit. There's a whole lot less of them competing with each other and a whole lot more of them competing with the arena.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think this movie really shines before the games. I think the games are probably
Yeah.
the weaker part, which is funny to think of, like premises that are all about the games, and the worst part is the games.
All right, Mockingjay Part 1. Katniss Everdeen is in District 13 after she shatters the games forever with an arrow. Under the leadership of President Coin and the advice of her trusted friends, Katniss spreads her wings as she fights to save Peter and a nation moved by her courage.
This movie sucks.
Yeah, it's not
Yes.
great.
Yes. Absolutely, I feel like unnecessary. And this is the movie where I feel like, okay, they split this into two movies and they're trying to make extra money, where it's like all of this is probably, I felt like this whole thing is probably a couple chapters in the third book
Yeah,
or
probably.
something. And then it's like, okay, now the fourth one, this is where the actual revolution happens. Like, this is talking about the revolution. And honestly, it's just not memorable. I'm like, okay, what happened in this one again? Like, this is just her walking around filming a couple of campaign things and
Propos Proper.
Yeah,
Propos,
propos,
I got really,
propos,
I got really
propos.
sick of hearing that.
Yeah, so did I.
Just call them anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. This movie is like, it's like when books get really big, they just keep getting thicker and thicker. You can tell that like the first book might have been this thick. This book was like this thick.
Yeah.
And she's just writing chapter after chapter of Katniss being sad. But that's it. Catching Fire has like 3 scenes where it shows a PTSD, and it's really efficiently done. This movie is as long as Catching Fire. Sorry, slightly shorter. And it's all just her PTSD. It's lots
But
of
it
scenes.
doesn't feel shorter.
No,
It feels longer.
there is just
You're
a
right.
lot of staring and a lot of her just in the dark. And like, it's just a bad way to show it. And because all that happens is there's that. They shoot down the plane over the hospital
With a bow and arrow. Yep.
with a bow and arrow.
Yeah.
And then there's
Cool.
there's the Peter reveal.
Yep.
This is where the love triangle sucks, actually, because every scene with Peter, Gail's like, "Oh, what a bastard! I hate him," and it's
What a
very
jerk.
it's very obvious that he's being like,
Look at him,
forced to do
Katniss.
this.
Look at him. He's a jerk.
He is, though.
He's being tortured, man.
Yeah,
They're
no,
brainwashed
The torture
and-
just brought out a part of his mind that was already there.
He thinks Katniss is dead. He's got nothing to live for. That
Sure,
baby,
sure.
that baby that he tried to convince her was real is dead. Okay,
Just like he keeps going to him. He's like, I lost my wife and my
And my
daughter and my child. God damn it.
yeah. No, this movie really is like the thing that sucks as well is that the reveal of Peter coming, them getting Peter back, is a perfect midpoint turn for the film. Like I say, make the last movie 3 hours. Have
Yeah.
this happen an hour and a half in. It's a great, turn. It's a great like, oh wow, stakes are raised. I want to see how this ends.
Yeah.
Ending it on there is really, it's a really obnoxious stinger. I don't like it.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird point too because they kind of have this victory of retrieving Peter, and then you find out he's brainwashed. Like it makes so much more sense as a midpoint turn. You're right. Than
Yeah.
the end of the movie. It's an annoying cliffhanger. It doesn't
Yeah.
it doesn't feel good. Like you're not hopeful for what's coming in the next movie, and it's not even like it doesn't feel like a dark middle chapter. Even it just feels like a boring middle chapter.
Yeah.
Like, and there is some, like, I don't know, I was surprised at how dark it was when she goes back to District 12 and there's all the charred bodies on the ground and they film some more propo. Like, it's, there's a few little moments.
Tell
like
us
that.
how you feel. Looking at all these dead people.
Yeah.
Yeah, Natalie Dormer's not a great director. She's just like, tell us what you're feeling right now in this trauma.
She has a great haircut, though.
She
Looks badass.
does.
Yeah.
But
But
that's all
it.
that's really all she's got going for her.
as a
this movie,
director,
Yeah,
poor director.
Lacking in her communication
Hey, no, she
skills.
got that shot of her shooting the plane with the bow and arrow. She got that shot from below, man. So good directing, maybe bad like directorship. Just like telling people what to do. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Mahershala Ali, really good.
Yeah, that's right, man. This cast just keeps
Yeah,
like
This cast keeps growing.
keeps growing.
I mean, what's the president's name?
Donna
What's that
Sullivan.
actress? No,
Julianne Moore.
yeah, like,
Yeah,
there's people in these movies.
there is. But it's like, for each Mahershala and for each Julianne Moore, you have no time with Finnick. You have no time with Jeffrey Wright or Caesar. Like, there really is, it's a trade-off, right? You get more of some, and they... like, Finnick's the one that really felt wasted to me in this.
Yep.
Because he's kind of got a pretty good role in number 2, and then this comes along and
you
he
forget
just
he's
is...
there.
Yeah.
You forget he's there. Like
Because
it's just like
Because his role is similar to hers. He's just like, the trauma. He's like the darkness of it all. He doesn't do anything. He's all cut up because his girlfriend that I forgot
he just
was
doesn't
even-
sook about it as much. He's like, I'll film with Propo.
Yeah, he's the one with hope, right? Like, not her.
Yeah.
It's annoying. Were you guys bothered at all by the fact that she is actually like the best fighter in the world too? Like, not only is she the mouthpiece and the mockingjay, like the one providing hope, she's also literally taking down jets with arrows. Like, it bothered me that she was actually good at fighting. I don't know. I mean, I know we see her in the Hunger Games, but I feel like that should be a different set of skills to outright warfare.
But even then, her skills in the Hunger Games are survival. They're not
Yeah.
like she gets lucky with like one shot,
Yep.
and the rest of it's just like smart. Like, outwitting it. I agree. It's
He
The
turns
whole
into
take-
Hawkeye.
the taking down the plane is really stupid.
Yeah.
It looks cool though.
That's it's a great visual of just like it's coming and it flies over,
And then an American flag flies in the background behind her, and it's like,
and then everyone starts clapping. It's inspirational.
Is it an interesting choice, do you think, to have this whole propaganda side come into it for the revolution, where it feels like this whole thing is like basically, no, let's inspire people by filming these like fake scenes of you in front of like CGI backgrounds and stuff like that. It doesn't feel like this actual inspiring revolution, you know? It feels more like this organized takeover of the government kind of way, which obviously...
That's it is. It fits really well with the broader theme of the whole book, I guess, in the second film, of like, you know, where being like President Coin, there's two sides of her, like a coin. That's subtlety for you.
Shit.
Like it really fits with that. Like these good guys, the rebellion, are filming propaganda. They're just as bad. Like it works in that. It doesn't work when it's a contained film though, and the whole thing
is the film.
Yeah.
But I think it fails that they're just as bad as well. Like they're not. Are they just as bad? They're not really.
No, they're not.
I like in no way are they just as bad. They're not committed. I wish they committed more war crimes. Like I don't know. I feel like it would be more interesting. We do get some at the end of number 2, I guess, and that's.
Well, no, you're right. The hint of it is that's the whole point of the plane getting down scene is like it hits the hospital, and there's a suggestion of Katniss's guilt because she's like, oh, you know, I brought that plane down. It hit the hospital, but very quickly she's like, it wasn't me. It was them, and it's yeah, cool. That should have probably either been more or should have been. You're right. There should have been a better sort of culpability or something. And again, like more violence, more war crimes. They make films better. Just add it in.
You guys like Grano? So you'd watched all of these before?
So I came to realize I had not seen part 2. I gave up after Mockingjay 1, and I saw all the others in the cinema. So yeah.
Did you see the coin flip coming like early on, like with President Coin, like that?
No.
True. Conan?
Okay, well, I guess we can talk about it when we get there.
Yeah, okay. I mean, more just I remember watching this one, and I just had a feeling where I was like, oh, I don't know. I feel like she's going to end up being just as bad as President Snow, and the fact that she's calling
like I didn't like totally
well.
trust her or anything, but
like it seems it's pretty. I feel like it's pretty clear that something's going to be a bit amiss, but I mean, again, with a name like President Coin, you're like, what's that mean? I wonder.
All right, ready for Mockingjay 2?
Yeah, move on from this.
Katniss and a team of rebels from District 13 prepare for the final battle that will decide the fate of Panem.
This movie gave me War of the Planet of the Apes vibes.
Yeah.
And then it's like a simple mission with only, a ragtag crew, and they're slowly getting picked off, and it's like...
But it's 3 hours and it's depressing.
Just like War of the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
This movie felt long, as like the last one obviously felt long, but I just feel like this movie, I just kept thinking it should end. I don't know. I was ready for it to end.
They both have a lot of They both have a lot of pacing problems, I think. But
the big problem,
like they get to the capital to like overthrow Snow like with an hour and a half left. And it's just like, okay.
Well, the thing is that being in the capital is supposed to be another Hunger Games, right? In some ways, like you've got the game makers defending the city, which is such a strange. Like you could pick holes in that all day, but sure, why not? Let's have another Hunger Games. But
it's weird because the first half of the movie is really long and slow and cumbersome, and then it's like you kind of all. But I don't know. I might have had a different reaction. I feel like it rushed all the conclusion. Where a lot of the first, because I watched this over 2 sittings because I had to, and so the first half was just them kind of slowly moving through the city, and when I stopped midway through, I was like, man, this movie is going nowhere. And then kind of at the end, rather than just getting to it, rather than just coming to like a conversation and ending, it's like no, it all starts to turn, and then a lot happens fairly quickly. Where there's an overthrow and there's a bombing and there's like a lot goes on and it kind of wraps it up really quickly.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I would have rather more of that than just long scenes and then going through the tunnels, like the sewers.
I get what you mean. I think getting to there was taken for ages where I was like, kept waiting for this like big climatic showdown with Snow and all the actual confrontation and all that.
Yeah.
And it's all this build up, and then we kind of skip past the conflict with Snow, and then it comes to this new thing, and then all these new revelations happen, and it really reminded me, and it felt like the Game of Thrones finale, where it's like, okay, now there's this scene, and this is going to happen, and this is going to change, and this character's going to turn. Then now we're going to deal with that situation. Now this person's doing this in this place and doing that, and it's just too much all at once. But
like, but at the same time, this movie I think I came around that I was really not enjoying it, and then where it actually lands, I got really into it. Like, it actually does do some of the right choices. Like, it takes some dark swings. It actually does actually say something. Like, I was expecting it to just become a really bland conclusion.
Yeah.
And either be Coin is just like a bit crappy, or there's a turn but it's not really earned. But it ends up being like, oh no, it really leans into the whole they're all evil, and it's all going to go really bad, and war crimes get committed, and like the whole system is a game, and like it ended really strongly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I half expected them to get up to the Capitol and basically have a monologue from
Snow.
Sutherland's from Snow, and then and then have a little election and stuff at the end. But
like, I was expecting to take Nightlock, because they talk about Nightlock so freaking much in this movie. There's about 30 points where they're like, don't forget your Nightlock. Take the Nightlock if you need.
Does anybody take the Nightlock?
No. It's despite all the instructions to the contrary.
Yeah.
So I was expecting to go that way. I was expecting to come up and he just like, he gives his speech, eats that. It's like, oh. But thankfully they didn't. I think they did the right things, and I admired that from a trilogy that was kind of playing it safe for a lot of at least for the previous film. What did you guys think of the games in general? Like the tar, the giant liquid tar, the mutts in the sewers.
Dude, I was not expecting I Am Legend zombie things.
Yeah,
chasing in the sewers, freaky as, and just came out of nowhere. I was just like, oh my god, this is like, a lot different than I was expecting.
Do you know who directed I Am Legend? The director of this movie.
Legit.
Yes.
Oh my god, he reused the same assets.
Yeah, I think he did. I think he did.
Spiritual successor to I Am Legend.
That's
it's a weird connection there.
That is.
Yeah, I just didn't find them that interesting. Like, I thought the idea of the game makers defending the city is so stupid. And none of those traps seemed interesting. None of them were interesting like they are in the actual Hunger Games, where they're plotting and they're thinking and they're figuring out, oh, this is how it works, this is how we can get around it. They kind of just set them all off and have to run and escape and hold up in a building, and
there's definitely a lot more. It's like they just unleash that liquid tar.
Yeah,
it's like it'll only flood to a certain point.
And Peter just murders that dude.
And Peter murders that dude, which is pretty baller. But
there's on that Griner. I want Griner's thoughts on that.
Peter's bad guy. What can I say?
Been saying it from the start.
It all came through. Very bad man. Yeah, there is a lot of just the traps could have been better. Like when they're running through the subway and the ground's crumbling behind them, it's like, why? Why is it doing that?
Yeah.
How
did you rig this in the time between when this rebellion started and now? Has this been this way the whole time? Because that's really scary in a lot of ways.
Quickly make some traps. That's our priority.
But that's why they're all
out under the subway. We need to dig this.
That's why they all went. That's why they never worked, because they were like half-assed at the last minute.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, I like the idea. I think the idea is cool. Of like, literally, the whole city is a game and is a playing field. But yeah, it's not executed perfectly.
No, and like having everybody else still there doesn't, like, it should be. I feel like it should be deserted basically, except for his inner sanctum or whatever.
Yeah, it's weird.
It doesn't feel like the Capitol that we've seen in the other films.
No, it doesn't.
Like, it feels like they're walking through Washington, D.C. Like, it doesn't feel like they're walking through this technical metropolis.
Where's the monorails?
Where's like all the neon? Like, I don't know. It's like, I don't know. It's all glitz and glam in the other ones, and it just looks like normal buildings now. But
Also, they had the perfect opportunity for Peter to show his skills as a cake decorator to give them really good disguises so they don't look like themselves, and he doesn't do it.
Horrible.
Why even give him that
Horrible
skill?
disguises.
What a waste.
Because he's just been brainwashed. He's a mutt. He's explicitly
No,
mentioned.
but now he knows
mutt,
he's got to ask if something is real, and then he'll know it's real, and he's cured.
Is it real?
But isn't he already doing that by the time he throws the dude in the tar?
No, that's after that. I think he has that
Okay.
realization.
Okay. Look, Peter's got material in this film, all right? Peter is going through some stuff.
He is.
And
Sure,
he is.
I'll give him.
But again, all the stuff he's going through should have been in the first half of this conjoined film, because there's a lot of just sitting around and talking about their feelings again. But all right, let's talk about the conclusion. Gale becomes a fascist soldier. Grant, I want you to defend that.
How is he a fascist?
Look at your boy Gale.
I can't even remember what happened to him, to be honest. I know Katniss gives up on him because he was a fan of the double bomb that killed Prim.
Cold
Is that
hearted, man. She just shuts him off.
Yeah. But did he tell her to set the bomb off? Did he set the bomb off himself?
The way
He
I
knew
read
about it ahead of time or something, right?
Yeah, so this is my reading of it, is that because he's working pretty close with Coin, it seems. Like he's really leaning into the resistance. And so he must have known about that plan. And it's all that happens, like the bombs go off, she awakens, and then she's like, oh, what happened? And he's just like, oh, I work for her now. And he never says he did it, because she's like, did you know that it was a trap? And he's honestly, I don't know. Which to me is fascist for, oh yeah, I set it off, baby. Oh yeah. But she's like...
He gave him the idea for it, but he didn't know they were going to use it.
But like, anyway, after that happens, he's like working for Coin as her bodyguard or something. And so he's clearly like, yeah, this is the price.
Do a good job, does he?
True, he supports the new fascist dictator. Sure.
Yes.
Sure, we all have our flaws.
And so Prim dies.
Yeah. That part was pretty brutal. Like,
Yeah.
good that.
Just that's the thing. I felt like it was just like chaotic bombardment towards the end, where it's like, oh wait, did they really just blow all them kids up and they killed Prim?
Yeah, it was super not obvious who had dropped the bombs, which is the plan, obviously. Like, it's confusion and it's to make. But yeah, it was a good reveal. Like, it was a pretty good ending.
It is. Yeah. I didn't expect him to take that swing.
Yeah. I could have probably lived without the cut to the future and them playing with their kids in the field, and you have nightmares, I have nightmares too.
And now our kids will, because I'm a mutt, so then I might try and kill our kids one
Because
night.
I'll probably kill someone again.
I do really like the whole turn of Coin being like, let's do the Hunger Games. And like taking on this new look, she looks like this big evil dictator sort of thing, and just this public execution that Katniss signs up for. And like, obviously, it's coming. She's gonna shoot her. And then she does the whole speech, which is like, "May your arrow strike true." And it's just like, okay, you're a goner. But it's really cool the way they do it, and just like her taking her out, and then just like the people just ripping Snow apart. Like limb from limb, and just like it's chaos. But
The part I love it when she shoots Coin, and Donald Sutherland just laughs. He just lets out this great
He
laugh.
just
cracks up laughing.
He just loses it.
Great.
Yeah.
Like that was the best part of the film.
Philip Seymour Hoffman's just smirking. He's just like, I knew that was coming.
Yeah, he's playing the real game.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I think all of it. I think the ending's all really. I think it takes it all in the right direction. It's rushed. It's just.
Well,
Yeah,
she goes to
the
take
pacing
the
of both
poison.
of these movies is terrible.
Doesn't she?
What's that?
She goes to take the poison after she shoots the Coin.
Yeah, she goes. Yeah,
Peter
and
stops her.
yeah, and they take her to safety. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, finally someone gets to use Nightlock.
You're like,
That's
wow,
right.
dang it.
They're just like, no, she's bummed out. I don't know. The flash forward, I like the flash forward. I like the whole he returns.
It's okay. It's a
He's
little
guarding.
cheesy.
It is, but again, this is for teenagers.
He should be decorating cakes.
That's growing a cake plant? Like, come on.
Yes.
man.
He comes
Bakers-
back and he's in the kitchen making a cake.
well, she
Or
comes
there's a
back.
big cake and it's him.
Face
He's like,
painting his kids, anything. Make that one skill worth it, please.
You just milk it. You're right. Look, they could have given him better skills. I agree, but
But he's a baker's boy.
Mm.
What are you
Burns
gonna
bread. All right. Justice for Gale. Anything else you want to say about the Hunger Games?
You probably like Team Jacob as well. Like,
No, Team Edward.
Gale is the Jacob of this franchise.
Probably.
All right, how do we rate them?
1, 2, 4, 3. I think I like the first movie. I think it's the most pure example of this concept.
Yep.
May not be the best.
4, 3.
So that is
Potentially 2, Pippin 1, but I'll go 1, 2, 4, 3.
Yeah, I think 2, 1, 4, 3 for me. I forgot to mention that is the big problem with the finale. Is like it ceases to be about the Hunger Games. It becomes just a rebellion story.
Yeah.
And young adult fiction always does that.
Yep.
It always like completely loses the initial concept, and it's just like we're now rebelling. Anyway,
I mean, even the clones of this movie had that problem. The ones that had more than one movie made lost their thread.
Yeah, it's true. I think 2 is I think 2 is a vastly superior film, but like above all of them. I think it's really
I
good.
like just the simplicity of the original.
Yeah, I think I do too.
The idea of it's more raw, but
I still feel like Gale could be the one.
Yeah, that's there's hope. Are you guys excited for the new one? Like exploring President Snow's uprising?
I don't understand what that movie is going to be about, but anyway.
No, it's
it's going to be hard to paint him as a good guy.
Yeah.
Or like a hero.
Like it'll be a tragedy, right? It'll be he's got a love story. What I reckon it'll be, because it's all about him falling in love. It'll be a love that goes wrong because of the games and he becomes evil. It's just one of those weird things. Like this is franchise. This is IP that no one forgot about. It reeks of like the fickle sort of Hollywood machine at the moment, where they're just like, what can we mine? Because Marvel's in a hole. So what have we got that's valuable? It's worth noting this is all by Lionsgate. Lionsgate just done John Wick, and so there is a sense of before they greenlit this, you can sort of imagine they weren't sure what was going to happen with the future of John Wick. So they're like, we need something. And so they probably were like, that's an IP we've got. It just feels a bit gross. Like, I don't think anyone's been wondering about what's happening in the Hunger Games universe.
Yeah, they're redoing Twilight stuff though, and obviously Harry Potter came. But yes, there's some Twilight thing in the works.
Harry Potter's being rebooted on HBO as a TV show.
Yeah, it's the season.
Time is a flat circle.
Last thing, if you enjoyed this, watch 2007's The Condemned, starring Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Plugging.
And Vinnie Jones. Vinnie
Battle
Jones.
Royale.
Stop it.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us for the good, the bad, and the worst. Next fortnight, we are doing the Spider-Verse movies. There's a second one coming out. We're all excited to see it. It's not quite a trilogy. It probably will be a trilogy one day, so we'll get to cover these topics again. But for now, we're doing 1 and 2. Yes. Looking forward to it.
Keen.
Thank you for joining us for the good, the bad, and the worst. Please rate us on Spotify. Give us a good score. Tell your parents about us. Get them to listen. This podcast was brought to you by The Taste of Iron by C.V. Clarke. I need to get this back on my desk so I can show it off.
Here it is. Look at them all.
Another book that the movie adaptation will be starring Jennifer Lawrence one day.
Some great inventive names in this book too.
Yes.
Oh boy.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.
May the odds, whatever.
Be ever in someone's favor.
That's it.